Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday night. We got another show tonight. We're going to be talking about Scarlet Huntress's field guide to cryptids and other creatures. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring out Sean Forney.
Hey, Russell.
What's going on, man?
It's going. How are you?
It's been a week. So, we're making it through it, though,
And
one
it's
day
all
at a
Tuesday.
time. Just like 2020. So, oh man, trying to share out's been fun with Facebook lately. Has yours changed at all, or is it like every day?
Yeah, it seems like there's something new every day that creates some sort of hiccup in the whole system. It's either
you
something
used to be able to hit share at the bottom of the video, and it would bring up all the groups, and you can just go share, and you were done. And like now, you can't even share within the video. You have to actually watch the video without clicking on it and share from outside of the video, and it's driving me nuts.
Like,
and stuff. So I think I got it shared out, but whatever, it is what it is, buddy.
I know we both tried to hit it and get it out there earlier today too, so hopefully everybody's catching it.
Yep. So it's pretty exciting. I've been enjoying watching you guys with the Thursday night, Friday night draw. I want to touch base about that real quick before we get to talking about Scarlet's Field Guide to Cryptids and Other Creatures. You guys definitely need to check it out. Sean and Rodney Fike do a show on Thursdays and Fridays. They got Thursday night throwdown, Friday night draw. They sell the sketches they have on that night. What are you guys doing this Thursday?
This Thursday is Vampirilla and Lady Death.
See, that's the show I've been waiting for all month.
I think a lot of people have. We've been teasing that one out basically since when we first started taking suggestions. I mean, everything we've done for the month of October has been suggestions from the first couple of times we live streamed.
I think the first live stream we had probably 100 suggestions. You guys are like, whoa.
And Steph's kept a list of all the stuff since the get-go, and everybody's excited for us to be drawing boobies and leprechauns.
Hey man, I'm just excited about Vampirella. I mean, everybody knows that's my forte right there. That was the first thing, the first show I had to throw that out there. I'm like, you're like, anybody have suggestions? I'm like, Vampirella and Witchblade. Eventually, we have to hit those two.
There you go.
And it'll be good. So you guys have any special guests this week, Thursday or Friday?
Friday, because we're doing Godzilla, we're bringing on our buddy Jay Fife. And I think it came down to Rodan, King Ghidorah, and Godzilla. So I don't remember who's drawing what, but I think those are the final tallies that got taken into account. And Tina says the Dead Ladies Club. That's what we're doing.
Ladies Club.
Yeah, that's Thursday night. Boobies and Dead Ladies Club.
Hey, that's a heck of a show. And for you guys that don't know about the group, I just posted it in the chat there. Definitely go check it out. Definitely like it. If you can't watch the show live Thursday night or Friday night because you're busy, they're available on YouTube and Facebook.
Yep.
On the group to go back and rewatch. Also in the description of the video is Sean's link tree to every single page where you need to find him. So if you're coming back and watching this later on, you've got questions about where you can find Sean, check out the description. You got the link to the Kickstarter, the link to Sean's link tree, and everything you need. Yep. And so we got people pouring in here. We got Tina's here, Andre's here. Ed, hey, what's going on, buddy? Welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Glad to have you here.
Andre, I don't know what Andre thinks we're getting into, but it sounds like a felony waiting to happen. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, and last night he was trying to name, the creature on there, Paco. So,
he was
got to worry about this guy. And I was like, oh, it's only a temporary name. He's like, what do you mean a temporary name? No, it's forever known as that. I'm like,
whoa. Yeah, that's about when I tuned in last night. Was he was going on about Paco the axe murdering demon thing.
Yep. For boobies and dead chicks. Yeah, I mean, that's just an automatic felony right there. Those words in the same sentence. So Andre knows what's going on. So tell us about this awesome Kickstarter. First of all, though, before we touch base on the Kickstarter, I kind of want Sean to give everybody a little bit of a background to it. So before the field guide came to be, there's a book. Sean doesn't just do sketch covers or, covers for Dynamite and, sketch cards. You and Stephanie created a book.
Yeah. So back in, I'll try to make the short and condensed version. So back in 2003, I was working for a company based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. It was a small publisher. They wanted me to do a 5-page short story for an anthology book that they were putting out. And Steph and I, over the phone, came up with the character Scarlet Huntress. We rattled off some ideas, came up with this whole thing about the character being a descendant of Little Red Riding Hood. And I pitched that as what I wanted to do for this anthology. They liked it. I got all the artwork done. They published it. And the publisher really dug it. And they said, well, would you like to do another one? We want to do a crossover between our character and your character. And, same thing, another short 5-page story. Did that one. They offered up the option for us to do a one-shot story. I think it was like 16 pages, somewhere in that ballpark. And we did it. We put everything together, but the publisher had some hiccups with printing and who knows what all. So we just decided, after it took over a year after we were done with it and nothing had been done, I just made sure I got all the blessings from the publisher and whatnot. And we printed the first issue on our own in 2006. And we've kind of just been building off of it ever since then. So I grabbed out this is the latest one. This is the book we did a Kickstarter for last year. So Scarlet Huntress Adventures. It's got 3 short stories in it. Each story is somewhere like 8 to 10 pages, somewhere in that ballpark. But we just kind of built the character. That's essentially our 4th issue to the book. Because basically we've both been doing it between work, other projects, and whatnot. I usually only have so much time to devote to doing something outside of all the numerous other projects I work on. So we just kind of, it's been every couple of years. I mean, basically, like I said, we've been doing this since 2003, and we're only on the 4th issue of that. But around 2010, 2011, we were getting ready for San Diego Comic-Con. And we had just put out issue 2, the 2009 Comic-Con, I think it was. And we knew we wanted to get something to, have at the show, get out on the table. And we were going to be setting a small press with my buddy Jalen Warner, who will probably chime in the comments at some point. He got a small press space. We were splitting it. It's like, okay, we need another book to take out there and, show off and promote the project, the property, blah, blah, blah. And so my buddy Josh Metters and I, we were sitting around working one day, and we just started tossing around ideas. And somehow we landed on this idea of doing Scarlett's actual journal of all these various creatures she comes into contact with. So this is the one that we did back in 2011. And let's see if I can get it right here. So this is the piece that Josh Metters did, and see if I can get it in here a little bit closer after I avoid cameras. So he did this awesome Yeti piece, and it was basically, he was kind of the other half of getting this idea to come to fruition. And then Steph and I just kind of ran with it, and we got a bunch of our friends like Jay Fife, who did the giant turtle here. We just kind of build around all these ideas of Ohio-based cryptids, and or we I totally got the camera like out of focus now. We came up with all these like different cryptids from Ohio, and kind of translated some stories if they weren't from Ohio to fit within our like story, our continuity, what have you. And we did this thing back before we had the availability to do crowdfunding, anything like that. So we put together the book, and it ended up being like 30 some odd pages. It's let's see if I can show off some pages here real quick. It's all black and white, and you know, like we wanted to go full color. We had all these grand ideas for it, but we just we couldn't do all the stuff we wanted to just because cost was prohibitive with the whole thing. So fast forward to last year, we were doing the Kickstarter for Scarlet Huntress Adventures. We were getting everything wrapped up, and we wanted to try to do our best to keep the momentum rolling with, you know, doing the Kickstarter, getting the book out, getting people familiarized with property that may not have been before. And it was like, okay, let's revisit the whole field guide book. And so at the beginning of this year, as we were like packing up all the stuff for the Scarlet Huntress Adventure Kickstarter, we started, you know, getting some ideas together on what we wanted to do with the field guide. And initially we wanted to try to launch over summer. It was just, you know, with COVID hitting and everything else going on with our work schedules and whatnot, it just didn't quite line up for us. So it was like, okay, let's just keep the stuff going. Let's keep talking about it, keep it fresh in everybody's mind, whatever, and get to the point where we can get this thing put together. And once we finally got into the realm of like September, it's like, let's do it in October for Halloween. Let's build everything around it. So I came up with, well, Steph actually came up with the Cryptober idea, where I've been doing the daily morning sketches of all the various cryptids that are going to be in the book. And, you know, we built everything with Thursday Night Draw, or Thursday Night Throwdown and Friday Night Draw is built around the idea of Halloween and the horror and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of all seemed to work together to promote this thing. And so we got everything put together. We got, not counting Steph and I, there's 14 other artists, creators, writers that are joining us on the book. And everybody's turning fabulous pieces of artwork. Rodney is working on one of the stories. Brian Borgman is working on a couple of stories that tie to, because we've also licensed out Scarlet to his game Kaiju Chaos. We've got some kaiju that show up in the Cryptids book, and so he's writing a couple of stories that kind of cross over between, you know, both properties. And like, you know, we got all these different artists. One of those artists being Brian's daughter Ayla, who's a you know, teenager. She's you know, joined in, did a piece of artwork for the book and whatnot. And then, you know, all of our numerous other friends that have decided to, you know, come in and join all the fun with us. And you know, we intended for 64 pages for this book, but I think we're going to be well over 64 pages by the time it's all said and done, because everybody just started having such a blast with it. You know, it went from, yeah, I'll do a piece or two to Jamie Snell did 8 pieces. Jay Fife has given us at least 4 pieces. Rodney's done a few.
It's an interesting take. I mean, I really like the idea, because you guys are taking, you know, your book and you're making something that is kind of personal to the character. So this is a journal that Scarlet Huntress kept of all the creatures that she encountered, and then some. And it's a really cool idea, because it's kind of like having a keepsake of that character if you're into it or you're just now getting into it. It's a really cool idea. And, you know, of course, we didn't help out, you know, with the whole show thing with the blue balls of light. I got to throw that out there. I think Danny D is still on a partial Facebook ban. That's why we haven't seen him for the last few days. So if anybody's been looking for Danny D, he messaged me and said, hey, I'm banned on Facebook for a week. So I just got to throw that out there. You know, we had the glowing blue balls of light in the previous show when we were talking about pyrotechniques, and then somehow, you know, we started talking about, you know, spirits, and, you know.
I was gonna say, you know, that's a nice little segue. I can show you that they do in fact appear in the first edition of the book, but again, we couldn't go color, so it's black and white, so it's kind of boring. But, you know, now we're gonna go full color. Steph's doing up the Will-o'-the-Wisp. I don't know. I don't want to call it creature. I don't know exactly what to refer to that as, but you know, we're having fun, like mixing in all this different, like, urban legend, folklore, fairy tale, fantasy, and just stuff that I've always been intrigued by. Steph's been intrigued by, and just stuff that we want to work in the stories that we can't always do in a full comic book format. and like you said, it's everything is Scarlett's point of view. This is her journal. It's her, it's her accounts of all these things she runs into. And then so the book will have artwork done by, like myself and Steph, and that will basically be like Scarlett's interpretation of what the creature is, or whatever she runs into. And then everybody else will be like the eyewitness account of, well, I ran into Joe Bob over here, and he told me that the chupacabra looked like this. Well, here's Joe Bob's interpretation of the chupacabra. So it's just having fun in universe with all that kind of crazy stuff. And I see all the mentions popping up, so I should probably say hi to Wendy, Jack, and then Andre saying hi to everybody. Oh, and I missed Joshua. There we go. I hit everybody.
Yeah, so Josh got banned too, a 3-day ban, and it's partially my fault. So I posted that post on Steph Wilson's page about edit member, and then Fat Steph, like from Austin Powers. And so he posted a post that said, "You crazy DUTCHBASTARD," because I don't want to get like banned for saying it. Because from the movie, and they like ban hammered them. They're like 3-day ban. So he's like, I want to just he sent me a message. He goes, I just want to thank you for my 3-day suspension on Facebook. And I'm like, whoa, dude. Hey, next time put quotation marks, and then maybe they'll understand it's a movie quote.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, you can't play around anymore. It's
But yeah, as like you were saying about, having all the other artists do pieces for the book, it's a really cool idea, because it's almost as if too, as Scarlett is journeying along through her journey, she's picking up notes that other people have left behind and adding them to her journal. And so that adds a really fun aspect to the book, because it's not just, you drawing 64 pieces of, oh, here's all the creatures that she meets. It's like, it's actually like a collaboration, a journal that she kept of not just her notes, but other people's notes too.
Yeah. And that's what's made it fun for us. Cause we can play around with the ideas of how they're put in there. It's like, some will look like you said, it's like, oh, I grabbed this along the way. So it's going to be, taped in the book. We're going to make it look like it's taped in there. And then, all the other stuff, and like her notes, her, handwritten note writing over top of, a picture, a piece of artwork, or, maybe scribbling out something she writes, and everything follows like a format of like her journey across like the country and into other countries, as she ventures all over the place, finding out, all these various, cryptids, beings, whatever, that again, that adventure that we might not always be able to tell in a comic book. Maybe it happens somewhere down the road, because when we did this first edition, we put a story in there about gremlins, because I really had this itch to do something with gremlins. Well, when we did the last book, I finally got to tell that story in an actual comic book format. So, this can also be like building blocks for later, expand upon it. And it's just, I'm always like intrigued by like all the shows that are like, finding Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster, all that kind of stuff. I love watching that.
Yeah,
stuff.
like unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that idea, and so it's like we get to work that into the book, and just get to play around, have fun, come up with our own interpretations of what we think these things are, and we don't have to like follow like any kind of specific format or model or anything like that. It's just we get to goof around, have some fun with it, and that's what made it fun for everybody else that's joined in. It's like do whatever you want. You can it doesn't have to look like what I envision it. It's whatever you want it to be. Just draw it. And it's funny because just before we hopped on here, I got a message that I had a notification that somebody had sent me a tweet, and I had shared out a picture of Jalen Warner, a couple of his pieces, and one of the cryptids that he tackled was the Ozark Howler. Well, wouldn't you know, there's actually an Ozark Howler Twitter account, and they tweeted at me and were questioning what the Ozark Howler looked like in the drawing. I was like, well, that's according to Jalen Warner. And I started scrolling through the account, and they apparently have shared the Kickstarter a few times and all this craziness. And it's like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know, the Ozark Howler had its own Twitter account.
So is this Ozark in Missouri?
I think so. I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember.
Like that's just interesting because I live about an hour and a half from the Ozarks, so
Oh yeah, that should be it.
that's
Arkansas.
awesome.
I'm being informed from producer A, Arkansas, Ozark, Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay, I was gonna say because that's awesome. Like I've never heard of that, and I live like an hour and a half from the Lake of the Ozarks, so I know it's kind of like a big area that they consider the Ozarks. So and then
Okay.
you had that show Ozark with I can't think of his name, and that was based out in Missouri. So I was like, that'd be awesome. Like I got to look into the story. Dang you,
Oh
Arkansas!
yeah. And it's that again. That's part of the fun. It's like we get to like find all these. Yeah, Jason Bateman. There we go. Find all the crazy things that pop up. Like I've discovered stuff in Ohio over the last couple of months that I had no idea that's supposed to exist in Ohio. We've got, and Andre keeps poking fun of me every time I like bring one of these things up. It's like Ohio has like 5 or 6 different types of Bigfoot, big feet, Bigfoots, whatever. And it's just kind of interesting to discover all this stuff. And it's like we start diving into this, start promoting it pretty heavily, and then our I think it was our electric co-op that we have here in the city. They send out like a monthly magazine type thing, and the cover of it was cryptids in Ohio, and it's like this whole write-up, and then the Rutherford B. Hayes Presidential Memorial Center thing is doing a month-long exhibit on Ohio cryptids. So I sent it over to Steph, and I was like, I think we might be onto something. And it's just it's just fun.
Yeah, and it's cool because every state, every small town, they have their own lore, and unless you like actually actively search for that kind of stuff, you don't ever really hear about it because nobody ever makes a big deal out of it. It's just kind of like a hush hush. The people that have lived there, generation to generation, they know the story, but like just passing through, you would never know they have these cool stories, and that's what's neat about the whole idea too is you have several different viewpoints of it, the Jersey Devil, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, all these different entities that exist in lore. Each town has their own rendition or their story about it.
Yeah, and it's crazy, it's fun, it's just, I don't know, it's so interesting just to find all this stuff, and then again get to play in that sandbox and create little stories around it.
Well, that's the best part, coming up with stuff. So I'm going to screen share this real quick and give everybody a look over at the Kickstarter while we're chatting about it. Maybe. We'll see if I break it.
Don't do that.
Oh, technology. One day it works great and the next day it's just like...
Yep. So we've...
Okay.
We've unlocked, I think, 6 stretch goals so far. So we got like all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I grabbed some stickers. We got stickers. We just unlocked the Bigfoot acrylic charm today. So there's like, and I keep trying to stress this to anybody and everybody that when you're back in the book, you're not just getting the book right now. You're getting the book plus like I think something like at least 6 stickers, somewhere in that ballpark. The acrylic charm. Next thing we got coming up is a bookmark with art by Jay Fife. So it's like the initial pledge of like the $15 for the book gets you quite a bit more than the book so far, and we're hoping to unlock several more stretch goals before this thing runs out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and now the packages are relatively, cheap too. I mean, compared to some of the other Kickstarters, I mean, you've got just the physical book, is $15. It's definitely.
Yeah, and like I said, with that $15 right now, you're getting, several additional add-ons there to hopefully make it worthwhile for anybody willing to jump in and pledge. And it's friends of mine have talked about how right now Kickstarters and whatnot are basically everybody's convention online, And it totally is. I mean, this is the way you can support indie creators. You can pick up new material. Granted, it's going to take a little bit before it's in your hands. But the cool thing about it is, with these stretch goals and whatnot, you're getting all this bonus material that you would not get at a convention. If you went and picked up a book, yeah, you might get the autograph on there, but you don't get all the other, cool add-ons and all these other fun features. So that's why we're trying to really make it worthwhile to everybody.
So now I see here you have, is that a package you can get with the back issues of Scarlet Huntress as one of the tiers?
Yes. So that package there, I think the early birds are all gone.
Okay.
So you get the new book and then all 4 of the previous issues.
Awesome.
And we got various print packages that you got there on screen, and there's opportunities to get original art of multiple varieties. We tried to hit everybody's taste. Try to give a little mix of everything. And I should shout out and say, Andre, have a good night. We'll hopefully see you on one of the next streams.
There he is right there, the Ozark Howler.
Yep.
And there's some of the small original ink sketches. The Ohio Grassman.
Yeah. One of the numerous versions of Bigfoots.
Okay, let's see, where are we going to get here eventually? So there's more original art. Trying to get to there we go, stretch goals. That's what I was looking for.
It's quite the scroll.
So yeah, you've got, looks like, 6. You got the Bigfoot charm. I think that's unlocked, isn't it?
Yep. We unlocked it tonight.
Yep.
So, like a little less than $500, we'll unlock that J. Fife bookmark. Which, like it says there, not final art. It will be a full color piece. I'm going to add some color to it and make it a little fancier. And then we got to beta test the add-ons. So in addition to, we've got a package where you can buy the previous issues. You can pick up any of the previous issues. We had variants on the last Kickstarter from Rot Michaels, Daryl Banks, and Carlations. And we did a couple of versions of those variants, but we still have some available. So we're making them available as add-ons to this Kickstarter. So, if you happen to be a fan of one of those particular artists or maybe a couple, we put those in there. We did extremely limited print runs on both versions of them. Plus, we have other stickers, trading cards, prints, and such that we had from the previous Kickstarters and San Diego Comic-Con. So we're testing out that beta of the add-ons, and so far it's working great. We're really digging the way it's working.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that because I will be using the beta add-on for my campaign next month. And I'm like, awesome. I've been sweating because I haven't heard of anybody that's used it yet. So you're like the first person that I've heard that has said, hey, I used the beta add-on and it's awesome so far. Because, I mean, the idea of it's awesome because, if Kickstarter would have had that from the get-go, I think it would be a lot bigger than it is. Because a lot of people get into Kickstarter and they're like, oh, I really want this. And then, but I really want that. And they don't understand the whole overpledge and send a message and, all that. Yeah. It gets overwhelming for the consumer for somebody that's never backed a Kickstarter before. Well, if you've backed a few, you get used to it, but
it gets
there's a lot to it.
It gets overwhelming on both sides. I mean, our previous Kickstarters, we were setting up Google Docs where people could go and check off and be like, I want to add one of these or add one of those. And, we'd have to keep track of all the messages and, yada, 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 all these crazy things. Now it's great. It's like I said, we put in those variants, for example. We had a handful of each left over and it's like, okay, we don't have any cons. How are we going to, get these out in front of people so they can see them, if they want to buy them, so on and so forth. And this makes a nice thing. It's like, okay, everything's all our single property. They can take a look at it and go, ooh, you know what? I'm a huge fan of Marat or Daryl's or Carla's, and be like, yeah, I want to add this cover. Or, we put in there the option you can add on additional copies of the field guide. I mean, how many times have you went to Kickstarter and you saw something and it's like, ooh, I want to get an extra one of these because maybe you're a collector and you want to keep one, sealed up and you want to read one. Or you want to get a remark sketch done on one, which we do have that on the add-ons as well. You can get remark sketches. So maybe you get one sketch signed that you're going to send off to get slabbed, but yeah, you want that reader copy, or you want to buy your best friend or cousin, niece, nephew, what have you. All those options are there now, and it's very convenient.
So yeah, that's definitely awesome. And now I do have a question, and I'm sure other people may have it. So I'm asking this to if people are watching this back later. So can you add add-ons after the campaign is started?
Yes. Because we ended up adding, I think, the trading cards. Yeah, we added the trading cards once we had launched. We updated and added the trading cards, or no, not the trading cards, the metal cards. We did a set of trading cards that were like the old school Marvel trading cards. But then we also did metal trading card size prints of one of the images, and we didn't get those in the first go when we launched everything, so we added those on a little after the fact. So yeah, you can do it on the fly, the same as you would, like, say, adding a package. We learned our lesson on that one the last time. We had a lot of folks going, well, can I get this combination with this combination? And it's like, so then we have to add a package. This kind of alleviates that. So it's like, now on the go, it's like, okay, it's in an add-on. You can add it on for an additional, however much it is, and it all accumulates into your total. Whereas, like, if you did something like, like with the over pledge and all that stuff, it didn't tally the stuff for you. Now it does. Now it tells you need, X amount of quantity of this book or this print or that print. So
yeah, which makes it nice for both sides. So now it shows on your end they bought a tier with 2 print add-ons and an extra copy of the book, whereas before it was like they added on an extra copy and 2 prints, and you're looking through the messages to be like, okay, they overpledged $80. What did they overpledge for? And now it's just like, hey, you're paying $80 extra because you added this stuff, and then on your end you're seeing, hey, such and such got this, and these are their add-ons. So it's like it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and that's why I was like, Kickstarter, when I clicked on it, I was like, ooh, add-ons, you can do that now. I was like, it's about time. And it's like, we're sorry, but you must submit this 65,000 page essay and 5 pages of questions to be able to, because like they were like, take this short quiz.
Yeah.
And like it was like 5 pages. I'm like, this isn't short. So I wrote them like a 5, like yours at least, they're like, keep it 1 to 200 words. It was like 5,000 words. I'm like, this is my first Kickstarter. This is going to make it so much easier for me because I can see everything that everybody added on without having to go through messages. I'm like, please let me use it. And I just went on and on and on. And it was like probably 4 or 5 days went by. And then I got an email back and I was like, and it's like, you've been approved. I was like, yes. Yes. I'm really glad to hear that it works well. That makes me feel a lot better because I've like been doing the graphics for the add-ons that I want to do, because I'm going to do like prints and stuff of some of the pieces of each artist has done for the book. That way, if somebody wants a print of it, they can add it on. And I'm like, man, I really hope this works out. So I haven't messed with it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you'll dig it. We are thoroughly enjoying it. It is, how it's made everything so much easier. And Wendy, you'll definitely dig it. I mean, because I know Wendy's done a number of other Kickstarters, and if you've got previous material you want to make available, this is a perfect opportunity. And I mean, all of us end up with overstock basically, and this is a cool way to get it out in front of folks that we might not see at a con or something like that. They might be new to back in the Kickstarter. They want the previous stuff too, so it's perfect.
Or if you're doing art like you do for a Jimmy Noble book and there's 72 covers available of one book on the Kickstarter, it makes it a little easier to pick the ones that you want.
Yeah.
Because you've done several covers for Jimmy Noble and some of his books, like Totally Red Life of Violet, and
I think 4 covers, I think, so far. Because I did the Star Wars one, I did 2 for Zira, and the latest one, the Evil Rad for the Halloween stuff.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
But yeah, that last Kickstarter he had, he's like, there's 69 covers right now, and then it ended up going over like 80,
yep.
and I'm like, I'm having a heart attack about just doing one book and having print add-ons, and I'm like, I just cannot imagine trying to keep track of all of that stuff. And it was 2 books. It wasn't just the one book and 80 covers. There was another book. The rack was included in there. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a train wreck.
It has so much stuff to keep track of. I applaud folks that can do that. Like I've seen a handful of folks doing the Kickstarter Indiegogo, combo running at the same time. I don't know how you keep up with it, how you do it. For us running one for the next couple of months, that's plenty.
Yeah. Well, and you see some people do the after campaign too. Like they'll run Kickstarter and then they'll have Indiegogo start the day after, which sometimes it works out pretty cool because they'll have like an $8,000 stretch goal and they'll end on Kickstarter at like 7,200, and they'll be $800 shy of that last stretch goal. Then they carry over into Indiegogo. So if Indiegogo pushes that last $800 out, then everybody on Indiegogo and Kickstarter gets that stretch goal. So that's cool to see stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of Indiegogo.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it enough. We had a conversation when Rodney and Tina were up and we did the Roadkill Rampage packing party, and I learned that it's not quite as user friendly as Kickstarter, and you got to do a little bit more work to make everything happen. And it's just like, this is already enough.
Kickstarter's more personal. So Kickstarter, you get updates, and you get messages from the creator, and like when you like it, or like Wendy, Wendy will message you through Kickstarter when you back one of her projects, and she'll say, thanks, Russell, for backing. I really appreciate all you do. You get that personalization when you work with somebody on Kickstarter. Indiegogo is just kind of like, like Amazon.com. You get on there and you're like, oh, this book looks cool, and you just add it and you go along. There's not that user interaction there. So and I don't know, to each their own. I'm not going to diss Indiegogo and say it's not a good platform. It's not for me. I like the more personal interaction. That's why I do live shows and all this stuff, because I like to talk to people.
I'm right there with you. Like I said, like for us, it looked like a little bit more work than what we can really take on ourselves. And it's like, again, I applaud the folks that can do that and can take all that on. Like you said, it's personally for us, it's not the route we want to go or can go at the moment. Maybe somewhere down the road if it becomes a little bit more accessible, or we get like some giant Netflix deal and can do these things easier. I don't know, so something down the road.
Hey man, I could see Scarlet Huntress being the new Lock and Key or something.
That would be incredible. We'll keep doing this number, and
so how many, do you have a set number of books that you want to go do in the series that you're currently running with Scarlet Huntress? Or
I know we're shooting to try to do at least 2 more to wrap up the story arc that we've been building to since the get-go. Overall, I don't think we have it planned out, but we know there's at least two more issues that we think we can wrap up the story arc that we've been building off of, leading up to, and finally kind of finish off that arc. And there's plenty of other options we can go after that. It's just where do we want to go from there, and how long does it take us to do these next 2 issues?
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable. I just, and I applaud a lot of the creators that do the short runs like that, where it's like, okay, we have the story arc, we're going to do 5 books and we're going to get the story out and then we're done with it. And that's a lot of the problem with the mainstream companies. We won't mention their names. They beat the death out of it. They're like, oh man, the first 10 issues sold 100 million gazillion copies. And so, you know, they'll run it to like issue 900 and on the same story arc. And that's what's so nice about, you know, books like Scarlet Huntress and stuff like that is, you know, you touch base on the story, you finish a story out, and you move on to another story arc or a new project. And, you know, it has a lot more substance to it and a lot more feeling and emotion in the book.
Yeah, and I mean that's like a lot of what inspired me when like I first, you know, started thinking about this. And then like when we came up with the initial, like once we got the initial character and did the like couple of the short anthology things, it was like when we started the idea of like doing an ongoing thing. I can't really say ongoing, but as we've tried to build the story or whatever, like that was the thing that came to me, was like, you know, trying to do a short story arc that lasted, you know, X amount of issues, because that was the stuff I was always intrigued by reading. Like one of my biggest influences is Michael Turner and his book Fathom. When he did, when they first released the book, I think the first story arc was like, I think 8 issues. And then they switched. They did a couple of other stories for like kind of like a fill-in. And then they built and did like another arc that was like 5-6 issues, something like that. And like Danger Girl, like they did that first story arc in like, I think 6-7 issues, whatever.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. And it's just like, I like that kind of stuff because you get, you know, the beginning, middle, end, but you know, you don't have to keep it, you know, close-ended and it's like can't move on. You can still build other stories. It's like, you know, it's like a video game. The first level is complete. Okay, what's going to happen on the second level? You know, it's like,
yeah, and it's like, you know, Wendy, you know, and Tom and CB, what they did with their most recent Kickstarter campaign on Comic Unity with the Sirenus, Might, and Catnip. You know, they took a character out of each one of their books and did a spinoff comic on it, and that's what's really cool to see. You know, you create, and I love the inspirational story behind how Scarlet Huntress came to be. That it was just like you guys just came up with something and threw it out there, and it ended up, you know, taking off. And it's really cool, you know, for something like that to happen. But you know, that's the neat thing about having these projects is you put them out there and you figure out what the crowd loves, and then you do a spinoff of that character and you continue the story on that way on what the people want, what the fans want, instead of just, you know, like you said, you know, keeping a closed-ended story to where you can just keep running it out there.
yeah, and it's just, you know, that's what I've enjoyed, you know, reading and stuff. So I think that, you know, makes the most sense. It's kind of, you know, go with what you know, and you know, it's like I said, it's like we might continue on and, you know, go a completely different route for another story arc, or, you know, continue to do shorter stories, what have you. It, you know, affords us plenty of different opportunities. And, you know, if folks want to keep reading it and are there to, you know, keep, you know, diving into the stories and whatnot, you know, we'll do our best to keep at it and keep making them.
So you guys are I guess you're about halfway through the campaign now for Cryptids. I think I said you had 15 days left going on it.
Yeah. I was going to say like 15, 16 days. So yeah, we are right at that halfway point. And I'm like astounded in like how quickly it funded and how well it's done throughout the you know, the first half here. Because I knew going into it, with it not being a standard comic, that we'd probably have a bit of an uphill battle. So we kind of geared everything knowing that it would be that uphill battle, with like, okay, we're not going to try to, you know, shoot for the stars and have this huge goal. We'll shoot somewhere in the middle of what we think we need. And, you know, it took us like 8 hours to fund or whatever it was. And that astounded me. I was blown away by that. But then, you know, that we've continued to keep unlocking these stretch goals, and folks have gotten the word out for us. You know, I've like just on our own, the other individuals involved in it have been awesome about sharing it. And then folks like yourself have shared it and gotten the word out. You know, and then I've, you know, got other friends like Marat, for example. Last night he shared it out for us, and it's like, you know, everybody has been fantastic with like getting the word out there, getting in front of folks. And then, you know, everybody that supported it, you know, and it's like, you can't beat that, and get to make this thing come to fruition, get it out there for everybody. And again,
Well, and it's kind of like Brian Silverback's project with Kara Prime that's ending soon.
Yeah.
It's all about doing what people like and doing something different. And Marvel throughout the years have done like their character handbooks and their origin stories and stuff like that. And it's something that's kind of like gone off the beaten path and been lost in the woods somewhere. And people don't really do it anymore. So, Brian doing the Kara Prime and you guys doing, the Scarlet Huntress, Cryptids, and other creatures, it brings some of that nostalgia back, not only for the nostalgia for the older readers that, used to get stuff like that and they loved it and enjoyed it. Now they can get that again and partake in it. But it also, the newer readers, the people that weren't really around when those handbooks and stuff were created, they're like, what's this? This is something new. So it gives them something, new to take in. So, it's definitely awesome to see people doing something different instead of, the same old thing. And I love the idea behind it. I mean, creatures are cool anyway.
And so. That was my thought, creatures are fun, creatures are cool. And it's like, I get to kind of like dive in and do other stuff that I wouldn't ordinarily get the opportunity to do. And again, going back to the idea of like, I don't have to like stick on some sort of like model or something of like, it has to be this way. It's like, I can
free reign.
Yeah, I can go in and do whatever I want. I can exaggerate the heck out of stuff if I want. And, just play around with all these, crazy fun creatures. And, I tried to, again, going back to the whole, how do I gear this towards a wider audience? And it's like, okay, I can have fun, do all these like crazy, the chupacabra, the gremlins, the werewolves, Sasquatch, whatever. And it's like, well, I know there's also a pretty big group of folks that like my work that like when I draw women. So it's like, we need to keep the fairies and the mermaids in there to, appease that crowd and, and appease me. I mean, it's stuff that I want to do. And it's, that was like one of the first pieces I finished was one of the fairies for the book. And, I just having that fun little mix of I can, bounce around and go, okay, I'm going to go over here and draw this. Now I'm going to go over here and draw that. And I figured that might be a good opportunity to show off. I was working on a piece like literally right before we jumped in here, but it's like I started doing the Vitruvian Man, the Da Vinci idea of what is it? How to square a circle, I think is the phrase. And it's like I can play around and do that kind of stuff, and it's like I can go from that and then jump back over tomorrow and work on one of the mermaids or something. And
so how much online research did you have to do? So like that was one of my big questions is, how many hours did you spend on the computer just like searching for the craziest things, that people have come up with throughout the years?
How much did I do versus how much did Steph? Because I'm getting a little flack from the other room.
I'm sorry, Steph. We should include you. This is a cooperative effort here.
Steph has done quite a bit of research. My idea of research is I go online and I find this crazy list of, hey, these are cryptids from Ohio. Let's include these. And I just start adding to the list. Like seriously, since sometime last year, knowing that we were going to go this route, like anybody that's got an iPhone's got that little notes app. I've been adding to that since like Comic-Con of last year. As I came up with ideas, as I was like on, waiting for a flight, and it's like, oh, you know what? We need to include one of these. And it got so bad that like I started putting like the same thing in there multiple times because I would think of it and be like, this is a great idea. I already did that. But like I just, as the stuff kind of comes to me or I see it or, somebody happens to share something on Facebook and it's like, ooh, was it last week or the week before somebody shared something about Mothman supposedly being sighted outside of O'Hare Airport. It's like, like everybody still, is fascinated by this stuff. And, it's like, I'll see something like that and be like, okay, how do I incorporate something like that into what I'm doing? and that's what I've done. It's like, you know, where I grew up, there's an urban myth about a headless motorcycle man and this light that travels down the road, and you know, all this craziness. I did want to put that in the book, but it didn't make the final cut for this version, and I think I still want to try to tackle it for later on. But it's like, you know, like stuff like that's hit me, and I'm going to try to keep it as much of a surprise as I can, but there's a couple instances where some friends are going to make their way into a story, because it just fit perfect with what we were telling for the story. And so it's just, you know, whatever kind of inspiration that we can throw in there. And we included it in the first book, so it's not really much of a spoiler, but there's actually a creature that Steph's mom took photographs in their backyard that, you know, they never quite figured out what it was, whatever, but she let us use the photos. Steph built a whole story around it. And, you know, it's like we've got our own little backyard cryptid thing to throw in the mix. So it's just, you know, fun, crazy stuff like that.
Well, and that's like when Roderick got a wish trip. So like the hospital submitted for him to get a wish trip because of his open heart surgeries and stuff. And, you know, they ended up coming here and they asked him, you know, Roderick, what do you want to do for your trip? And it was so funny because, you know, ever since he was a baby, he always wanted to go to Colorado and ride the train because the Royal Gorge advertisement came on Channel 9. And it showed this train, this orange train going through the mountains. And he always asked, you know, if we could go do that. And I'm like, buddy, I don't know. You know, we'd have to get that okayed through your doctors because, you know, being in the mountains, you're high elevation. We weren't supposed to have him over like it was 5,000 or 6,000 feet. So I'm like, I don't know, you know. So when they came and asked, most kids asked to go to Disneyland. Most kids asked to, you know, do something like that. No, not my son. He's like, I want to ride the train in the mountains in Colorado. And they just looked at him. And I'm like, it's a long story because, you know, we've taken him to Kansas City and we took him to Iowa one year and we rode the train over the river and stuff. We've went on a few train rides that are scenic like that. But so they flew us into Colorado, and I really don't remember the story, but, you know, we flew into the airport and the guy that took us to go get our rental car was telling us the story about they have the statue outside of the airport and something about it comes to life at night or something like that. And it fends off evil or something. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just really cool when you travel to different places and, you know, people will just start telling you about off the wall, you know, urban legends like that. And I'd have to ask my wife about it because it was like I would just like, it was out of nowhere. We're just sitting there, you know, we're overwhelmed because we have no idea where we're at. You know, we've never been in really anywhere other than Kansas or, you know, Iowa. That's our Illinois, you know, that's the furthest we've ever ventured. So like we fly into this whole new city and then this guy's just like telling us about this crazy statue. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, to me, I always find that stuff so much fun. And, you know, it's a lot of the inspiration behind this thing. Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably enough stuff out there for us to do several more volumes of this whole thing. Yeah. Still not hit all of it. It's like every time.
I'll be really excited when I see that. You know, if you ever end up, you know, the airport in Colorado, if that ever shows up in the book, I'll laugh. You know. I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's like stuff we gotta, like, you know, keep our own little journal of, you know, of like, okay, what do we fit in the next book? How do we do this? Like Andre and I joked around earlier tonight. I had leprechauns on the list for this one. They didn't make the cut, so they're definitely going in the next one.
Yeah. So one last question for you before we sign off tonight. What's the craziest story that anybody's ever told you as far as urban legends or, you know, stuff like the cryptids goes?
That's a tough one. I've got a few. One I'll keep to myself because that was a pretty personal story. Like I mentioned, there's supposedly, where I grew up, there's like a headless motorcycle man, and that was like, it kind of ties into the whole thing with doing this book. Is when I was in high school, like the next town over is where my high school art teacher lived. And there's like this crazy urban legend that's gone around for, who knows how long. And she started telling us one day during class because, it's like, this time of year, it's like everybody was out doing stuff for Halloween and whatnot. And I think it was something that her and some friends ventured out and did. And, there was some of my classmates were going to venture out and do this, where like, you supposedly drive down this road and you got to honk your horn so many times and yell out obscenities and turn your car off, put it in neutral, and your car will start, rolling backwards and like all this craziness. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a light, the headlight from the motorcycle, from the headless motorcycle man, is gonna like run you down. And it's like the art teacher is the one telling the story, and it's like, supposedly real, and it's, based on, I think it was a soldier came back from World War II, and he was like off to go find his wife or girlfriend or whatever, and he wrecked his motorcycle, and he hit the fence and it took his head clean off or whatever. So he goes around and torments people. I can't remember all the details, but it was just so like over dramatic, done up, whatever. And one of my ideas I wanted to do for this book, and it didn't end up happening because there's already kind of like too much to try to cram in here, was I actually wanted to hit up my my high school art teacher, because she she's still teaching, she still does artwork on her own and all this stuff, and it's like it would be really cool to get her to do some sort of sketch to include in the book, along with maybe like her take on the story.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And put in there. So it's like, like that's the stuff that's always kind of fascinated me with all this is, things like that, where you hear all these kind of like crazy urban legends. And, like Ohio's full of them. Like there's a book called Weird Ohio that's just full of all the craziness that happens and whatnot. And it's like, any kind of that stuff, I'm always, watching it when it pops on TV or something like that. And, it's a lot of the material that's filling all this stuff in the book. So it's just, something I can get entertained by, and hopefully everybody else will.
So I Googled it real quick, and it all I had to type in was Colorado Airport statue. So it's the Denver International Airport. I thought it was Denver, but I didn't want to screw it up. It's been a few years ago. And so the story is it's the Blue Mustang is what it's called, but the locals call it Blucifer.
Okay.
It's a cast fiberglass sculpture of a Mustang located at Denver International Airport. Colored bright blue with illuminated glowing red eyes, it is notable both for its striking appearance and for having killed its creator, Louis. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name. Jimenez, when a section of it fell on him at his studio. So that's where the lore of the statue came from.
Wow.
So there you go. Now you can include Blucifer in a later issue.
All right, here we go. I think we were at that airport once. Yeah.
And we had no idea. We didn't even know there was a statue there. I don't remember if it was our trip out of the airport or our trip back to the airport, but that was when they're like, "Oh, hey, did you guys see the statue?" And we're like, "What statue?" We're not looking for statues. We didn't even know there was one. And then they told us this crazy story. So yeah, that's what it was. A section of it killed the artist that made it in his studio. And so supposedly it protects the airport at night. It comes to life. So I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, I won't be anywhere near here at nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, we flew in there once on our way to or from San Diego. I can't remember which one, but yeah. Unfortunately, I did not get to see or hear about that. Yeah, now I know. We might go that way. Yeah.
Steph's over there making notes.
Yeah.
Blue Mustang, Blucifer. So it was definitely fun having you on. I appreciate you being on tonight. I love the project. It's really cool. I love the fact that you guys went through and did all these stories, and you got a phenomenal set of talent doing artwork for it, and so I only wish it the best, and I really hope to see more projects like this down the road. I mean, it's really cool.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for helping spread the word on this, and all the help on that. And Wendy says she backed it. Thank you so much, Wendy. Everybody else out there listening, thanks so much for, the continued support on this thing, making it happen. And hopefully everybody's going to dig what we get out there for everyone.
So I will give you the full screen, and I will give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you. And like I said before, too, the link tree is in the description of the video for anybody that needs to come back and check it out.
Cool. So let's see. Instagram, Twitch, Twitter are all at Sean Forney Art, which the spelling is in the description there. Facebook is Sean Forney Illustration. If you go to YouTube and search Sean Forney, it'll pop up. Rodney Fike and I do our Thursday night throwdown, Friday night draw, sketch off battles every Thursday and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join me on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube at 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, where I do a quick little warm-up sketch in the morning. Tomorrow is my last Cryptober sketch. Anything else after that will be whatever I sketch for morning sketches. And I think that about covers all of it.
Apologies, I was grabbing that Thursday night throwdown, Friday night draw link and throwing it in the. Oh, I didn't even hit send.
Yeah.
I'm like, why didn't it show up on here? There we go. So yeah, definitely check out the group. Joining the group. Usually around Mondays, you guys throw the voting. There we go. There's the word I'm looking for.
If we've got a poll for the week, we'll try to do that. So everybody gets. We usually cut it off on Wednesday of what the vote is. And then other times it's like we've got it predetermined, like what we're doing. But yeah, we always love everybody coming in and giving us like feedback, joining in the conversation. We love to interact with everybody. So as part of that's the main reason we do it is try to interact. We try to do that like convention experience from home. So join the conversation. We get kind of goofy. We have some fun, and then we get told to stop having fun because one of the producers yells at us.
See, that's what's nice about me being on last week. I didn't have anybody yell at me except for Rodney. See, I don't have a producer. I run the show around here. So I was drawing Steph Poole with CB Zane's Might, by request of Wendy Steen Shaner. So I'm actually working on a new one for Antonio D. When I had him on the other, I guess it was a week and a half ago, he was like, I really want to see a Changeling one. So I'm working on that now. I'm going to post it up this week sometime to help promote his Kickstarter because his is coming to a close too. But
okay,
thanks so much for being on tonight, Sean. I really appreciate it. Everyone, go check out this project. Check out the back issues that are available on this project for Scarlet Huntress. If you guys have never heard of the project, it's available on there. So definitely check it out.
Thank you. Thanks so much for everything. And thanks for having me on here.
No problem. I'm going to throw you to the back room. I'll be back in a minute.
Cool.
Thanks so much for watching tonight, everybody, and everybody going back and watching this later on. I appreciate you being a member here and checking out the shows. Definitely check out this project. A lot of work going into it, a lot of different artists, a lot of cool creatures, a lot of cool stories. And, these are not just like written down from a textbook. These are actual artist / creator interpretations of how they feel the characters are and the story behind them. Definitely check out the back issues for Scarlet Huntress as well. Great story. So without further ado, everybody have a great week. Thanks so much for being here. I have a show Sunday with Armando Ramirez and his crew with Plus Waco Comics. And Tuesday I'll have Tom Hutchison on for Ursa Minor and their latest Kickstarter. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. As always, Russ Explode Studios, projects that'll blow your mind. Y'all have a great week.